Hi, I'm Beckett from Courtside Sports, and today we've got 3 myths to bust about picking the right grip size. Now, picking the right grip size is huge. There are tons of different options out there. Every manufacturer has a different grip size, and picking the right one can have a big impact on preventing injury. Now, first things first, let's start with a disclosure. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a physiotherapist. I am an experienced tennis player who's served hundreds of customers both in person and online when it comes to finding a grip size that should work best for that player. Alright, so myth number 1, the idea that all grip sizes are the same across different brands. Now, of course, this is a generalization. Different brands make different shaped grips. Head is famous for more rectangular grips. They're getting more circular every year, but the Prestige still is very rectangular, whereas Babolat are known for more square or circular feeling grips. Yeah, a 4 3/8 is probably going to fit you across brands, but they may feel different. One of the reasons this is because if you think to our math classes, I know everyone loves math, the circle is going to be a shape that really maximizes the amount of area for any given perimeter, versus an oval is going to have less area for that same perimeter as the circle. We can look at grip sizes in the same way. So those more rectangular head grips, they're more oval, they're going to have less volume in the actual handle as opposed to a more circular or square shaped grip. That means you're actually holding on to less material with those longer, more rectangular grips as opposed to a round grip. So you can keep that in mind when you're feeling out different rackets. Now, the second myth I want to bust is the idea that everyone is going to a smaller grip size because Rafa's doing it. It's just a trend, it's not going to last. I don't think this is the case. If you look back in tennis, you see the era of wood rackets like Rod Laver, then Bjorn Borg. The forehand swing was so different than it is today. Today's swing demands much more mobility in the wrist, whereas before the wrist was a lot more locked, especially on contact and through the swing. When you have a bigger grip size, you just don't get quite as much flexibility. It may feel more stable to a lot of players, but you just don't get that freedom and wrist movement that you're going to need to execute that advanced modern forehand. Now, of course, not everyone is that player, and that's why we're going to look at a third myth, and that is that there's a perfect grip size. Of course, there's not a perfect grip size. If there was, we'd only sell one. It's really hard to just pick up a racket and say that's the perfect grip size. You know, I feel pretty comfortable with playing with a grip size 3 or a 4. 2 can feel a bit small, but it's passable. 1's way too small, and 5 is definitely too big in a lot of rackets. There's an upper and lower limit to what is going to keep you from being injured. A great way to test that is to grab the racket in a continental grip, so like you're shaking hands with the racket. Put your thumb up and just see how your finger fits. Now, this is a head grip size 3, and I'm not holding the racket super tight or super loose. It's just a comfortable amount of pressure, and I'm just nestling my index finger in between. I have pretty skinny index fingers, so if you have maybe thicker index fingers, you're gonna have a different experience, but keep that in mind. I have a little bit of wiggle room, but it's not a ton. What you don't want to see happen is your fingers touching together like this, because what can happen is you're squeezing the racket way too hard because your fingers are running into the palm of your hand and you can't quite get a secure grip. Now that will overstress your whole forearm and wrist, and you don't want it to be too big. You can see there's some wiggle room with my index finger here, and this is a grip size 5 we're looking at here, so it's definitely on the big side. Now, just to finish off, we're going to look at how picking the right grip size can really prevent injury. So if you go for a too big of a size of a grip, you'll have a hard time wrapping your fingers all the way around so you can get a good snug grip. It's not about being able to grip it tightly, it's about being able to grip it comfortably. If you can't get your hands all the way around, you may have a hard time applying the correct amount of pressure, which may cause you to squeeze too tightly. Squeezing too tightly creates a lot of tension that runs from your wrist up to your forearm. That can create a lot of stress on impact. So the ball comes in, hits the racket, that shock travels through the racket into your arm. If your muscles are already tight and squeezed firmly, there's not very much place for that stress to go, and it can cause injury. On the other hand, if your grip is too small, we're going to be running into issues with your fingers actually hitting the pad of your thumb, and that prevents you from getting a secure enough grip as well. That could lead to slipping of the racket in your hand, which could lead to you trying to squeeze even harder. And then we run into that same issue where your arm is tensed already, and it just creates too much stress through that wrist to forearm area. Now let me know what your perfect grip size is. Do you have one? What do you always use? I used a 3 for the longest time. I've used a 2 before as well. Right now I use a 4. I think I'm gonna go back to a 3. Not a big rhyme or reason, but when I switch brands, I like to try a 3. I like to try a 4. Just hold it in my hand and feel what feels right to me. So let me know your grip size stories down below. Has anyone seen a grip size 6 before? I'd love to hear if you have. You absolutely know the best place to shop for tennis goods is www.courtsidesports.com. Meet me on Instagram at Courtside Sports. I'll try to reply to your messages. I'll reply to all the comments in the comments section. If you learned something today, leave a like down below and subscribe, of course. I'm Beckett from Courtside Sports, and we'll see you next time.